Satellite images show smoke billowing from the town of Thantlang in Chin State. Tony Cheng reports on the Myanmar border.
Fires burn in the hilltop town of Thantlang in Chin State, northwestern Myanmar. The destruction caused by artillery shells and fires set by Myanmar's military appear part of a concerted policy of scorched earth. Most of the town's 10,000 residents have fled across the nearby border into India, powerless to do anything to save their homes. Others fled Chin State for the simple reason they couldn't find anything to eat.
Especially in Matupi, there was a huge food shortage. The people couldn't access their farms also, as the military had placed mines on the way. No transportation was available, and people couldn't go from one village to another. Internet access and phone lines were shut.
Satellite photos show how, starting in September, systematic and coordinated attacks destroyed 580 buildings in the town. These are tactics often associated with Myanmar's military, and all because the residents had shown resistance to February's military coup. Even in the Burman heartland, home of Myanmar's majority ethnic group, opposition has been brutally put down. In Sagang, this woman shrieks with grief after finding the body of her grandfather, one of 12 villagers reportedly murdered by the military. Myanmar's government of politicians in exile condemned the alleged war crimes.
The military every day committing crimes, terrorist act against the people. People are dying, and it's comprised the international crimes against humanity. So thank you for making statements. Thank you for your concern. But the current situation reminds you, asks you, more actions of concrete actions to stop that kind of military actions and to stop the illegal military terrorists.
And as recently as Christmas Eve, 38 civilians killed and burned. 2 workers for the charity Save the Children, now confirmed to be amongst the charred remains. In the past month alone, there have been credible stories of Myanmar's military perpetrating massacres in Sagang district and Kyaw state. And in the past week, thousands of civilians have poured into Thailand, telling stories of airstrikes that have targeted civilians. Nearly a year after the military coup, it appears that all the fears about an unchecked military rule inside Myanmar are coming to fruition. Tony Cheng, Aljazeera, on the Myanmar border.
Kyaw Win is the executive director of the Burma Human Rights Network. Joins us by Skype from London. Good to have you with us. So does it look to you like the military are using massacres now as a kind of weapon of war?
This is not the new thing that if you are following up all the situation in Burma, scorched earth policy, the strategy the military has been using to eliminate the population that is opposing them. This has been consist with so many crime against humanity and war crimes. As you look at it, only in December, this month, there are 4 events where massacre has happened and nearly more than 60 people has been killed in very brutal way. So this is only the situation in December. There has been this kind of similar kind of atrocities and killings happening in Burma. It's long time. It is several decades. If I'm mentioned all the back, all the history,
is the military now broadening this strategy? Before, for example, it was targeting the Rohingya Muslims. There were a lot of allegations, at least from human rights groups, saying they were using specifically civilian massacres, burning villages, burning people alive to target Rohingya Muslims. And now they're using it against the Buddhist majority populations, which are perceived to be against the military.
If I may say the correct you, this kind of atrocities are long been Burmese military using, but the world only heard and saw only during the Rohingya crisis. But this has been happening like Karen people. These are the people who suffered most in all the ethnic minorities in Burma, because they have been against that military brutal regime since day one. So they have several decades of experience of such a kind of atrocities in their land. So this is repeating again, and the military which committed Rohingya genocide against the Rohingya people, they don't have any consequences for the committing crimes. As you see right now, the response from international community is end up at the issuing the statements and imposing some symbolic sanctions against the military. That's all. That's really dangerous thing.
What does it say about the popularity of the military that they're now having to target even the mainstream Buddhist communities, not just minorities like the Karen or the Rohingya that you were mentioning?
Absolutely. You look at from several years, decades, as I said earlier, the military is using that brutal or the cruel kind of, the crimes they have committed against their population. Without any discrimination, they do a lot of things. But this time, the whole nation is uprising against them, and they are using the same tactic with anyone who is opposing them. For example, there are so many cases we have recorded, and since the uprising happened, BHRN has been documenting so many human rights violations. There are such crimes which shock you. Even every time they arrest some activists in the evening time or nighttime or daytime, next day morning their family receive the funeral, the body for the funeral. So they don't even survive the torture 24 hours. So they are killing, extrajudicial killings and the disappearance are very common. The crime the military is committing is a very systematic and widespread. And this is clearly saying that this military is committing crime against humanity. But unfortunately, the international community is doing not enough to stop this. And these people, the civilians on the ground, only in December, there are 40,000 IDPs, the people fleeing for the airstrikes and bombardment from the military, 40,000 only in December. So you can imagine there are hundreds of thousands of IDPs. They're being targeted by the military regime. There is no protection for the civilians, and we don't see any UN mechanisms or any UN entities. They are not helpful for us. They are really they don't. What people are feeling on the ground is they say that the international community is totally neglected them. They have they don't receive any protection. So this is the important time for not Burma to become a failed state, which is really happening now.
All right. Good to get your thoughts. Thanks so much.
Thank you. You're most welcome.